Hello, Year 3 and 4. This is your learning journey lesson. This is Wednesday, the 27th of January, AM lesson. So, can you remember our question for our learning journey? Pause the video now and have a little bit of a think. What is our question? Well done if you could remember. Can I write sentences using fronted adverbials to make a narrative for Baboon on the Moon? So that is our question. There's a lot in there and we unpicked it together on Monday. So we were having a look at sentences, the different sentence types that we looked at in the first week of online learning. So a command, statement, exclamation and a question. Fronted adverbials, we found that they gave more information and that narrative meant a story. Because Baboon on the Moon, although it has a little bit of music, it doesn't have any text with it or any speaking. We also focused on how the question is aimed at you. Can I write sentences? So it's about your determination and perseverance to write sentences using fronted adverbials to make a narrative. So how are you going to challenge yourself? Remember, we are being explorers, so we are seeking out challenges. This whole learning journey in itself is a challenge, but we are setting ourselves our own challenges too. So let's have a look a little bit more at the narrative side of it. So narrative meant story. What part of the story did we focus on Monday? Pause the video now and have a little think. Well done if you came up with the beginning. Yes, we did. We focused on the beginning of the story. Now remember, right at the end of the lesson, I asked you to think about how you were going to improve today. This was your linking thinking section. You had a thermometer where you could colour in how confident you were feeling and telling me why. Just like on my side here, I said that I am confident with using fronted adverbials, but I need to make sure my sentences are detailed enough for a narrative. Now I'm going to show you how I've upskilled my own work today, but let's have a look at the suggestions we had for how we could improve and what we were going to do to improve this lesson. So one option was I need to give myself more time to practice. I'm going to talk to a teacher. I'm going to watch the video again, or I'm going to try and spot fronted adverbials in my reading and try and magpie them. That was for children who wanted a bit more of a challenge. So, how are you going to improve today? Think back to what you put in that column. What's your challenge today? What target did you set? How are you going to beat your challenge today? Is it going to be through watching the video a few more times to get some more ideas? Is it going to be making sure you're reading through your work in order to put your commas in? Think about how you're going to be determined to beat your challenge and beat your score from last lesson. So let's look at the one that I started on Monday. So I started with the red writing. On the cold dark moon, comma, that's my fronted adverbial, it's a place adverbial. On the cold dark moon, there sat a small wooden house for a baboon. Now, I was saying I wasn't that confident because I needed more detail for a narrative. So I've gone back, I've challenged myself, I've persevered, and I've made it more detailed for a narrative. It stood in silence with the light only illuminating the front of it. Now people get a really good feel for what they can see. If they didn't have the video, they can now see that they've got a small wooden house on the moon and it's only lit up in the front section of it. Now the second bit. Inside the house, a small blue baboon was slowly stirring. Unexpectedly, the baboon's alarm went off. Slowly, he dragged himself out of bed and out of his room. So now I've started my beginning of my narrative, the beginning of my story, in a quite nice and detailed way. So for a bit of a recap on adverbials and how to use them correctly, let's do some work on what adverbials fit within each sentence. So here's a random example that we're going to use today. The furious dragon blew yellow and orange flames. There's not an adverbial in this sentence yet, but let's think back to the different types. An adverbial adds more information. It can add information on different types. Can anybody remember the different types of adverbials? Pause the video now and have a little think. So here we go. Here's some questions to help you think about the types. Where did it happen? What kind of adverbial is that when it tells you where? A place adverbial. How something is done. Pause the video now and can you remember the word for the how adverbials? Well done if you came up with manner. The next one. When something happens, what was the correct name for that type of adverbial? Pause the video now and have a think. Well done, time adverbials. How often? What was the adverbial name for this type of adverbial? How often? So there we go. Well done if you could get all of those names from the clues. Place, manner, time and frequency. So I know some of you, not all of you, when we were doing our work on Monday, needed a little bit of help in choosing the correct fronted adverbial for your sentence. So let's have a look at this sentence and choosing the correct one for this. The furious dragon blew yellow and orange flames from its nose as gently as a sea breeze at Christmas time. Which one would be appropriate and which one would be the best for it? Pause the video now and have a think. Well done if you came up with this one. From its nose, the furious dragon blew yellow and orange flames. So that one works the best. Okay, so let's think back to our aim now. How can we challenge ourselves today? What's our aim? What should that look like? What are we aiming to write? So we are aiming to write a narrative, which is a story. So we want our work to look like a story. So here are some of the challenges. If you're thinking, I'm going to be really determined to challenge myself today, because being an explorer, I'm going to seek out some challenges. Here are some challenges for you to do today. I can use fronted adverbials with commas. I can use adjectives. So again, giving out that extra bit of challenge. Just like in this sentence here, it wasn't just a dragon blowing out yellow and orange flames, it was a furious dragon. What a powerful adjective. I can punctuate my sentences properly, not only using commas after fronted adverbials, but also making sure you have your full stops in the right places. So let's have a look at our work today then. So again, I have attached this sheet into your portfolio if you would like to use it. It has the date and the title, learning objective to use fronted adverbials to start to make a narrative for a video. And let's have a look at the questions. Can we challenge ourselves? How can we improve from Monday? So we need to constantly be thinking, am I challenging myself? Am I pushing myself? Am I being determined? Now, before we start watching The Baboon on the Moon from the section that we finished off with on Monday, we're going to have a look at a story, a really good example of a story that uses fronted adverbials. And there's a section at the bottom for you to use where it says, good vocabulary I might use. This might be a chance for you to pause the video once I've read the story and for you to magpie some of the fronted adverbials. Remember, if you're at home, you don't have to be using this sheet. You could be really creative, and if you've already picked up a learning journey, this could be your time to lay out your book looking a little bit like this. This is what a good page could look like. So we've got our date and our title at the top. We've got some of the pictures. If you don't have a printer at home, then you could just leave a box for the pictures and I'll know what you're talking about, and you could put a caption underneath the box to say what's happening in the box. Then you've got your vocabulary box. You might want this larger if your challenge is to come up with your own fronted adverbials. Then this might be a good challenge for you. Then I've split my page in half, top and bottom, and put PM in the bottom. Then we have our wonderful column to the right of linking thinking, talking about how confident you are. So if you have your learning journey, it could look something like that. So pause the video now if you want to have a go at laying this out if you have your book. So let's get back to our task of finding some good vocabulary for you to use this morning. So I'm going to read it out loud and I want you to think, where are the fronted adverbials? So the quest for the raindrop of life. I'm going to get my highlighter ready. Above the burrow, the sun dazzled in the sky on yet another splendid summer day. Slumped against a tree, 10-year-old Kian flicked lazily through his favourite book. Over his crystal blue eyes, his brown curls flopped down and he blew them away with a half-hearted puff. So let's go back through again. Pause the video now if you want to write them down before I give them away. Here we go. We've got above the burrow. We've got a place adverbial telling you where the sun is dazzling. Slumped against the tree. This is telling you where the 10-year-old is slumped against. Over his crystal blue eyes. Again, this is telling you where his brown curls flopped. Now let's have a look at the second one together, and I'm going to highlight at the same time. In the distance, faint sounds of village life could be heard. The local children played happily on their bicycles while their parents bustled about their daily chores of cleaning, cooking and mending. Out in the farmers' fields, workers were delightfully harvesting fresh crops and loading up their carts ready for market. The burrow was a picture of perfection, and Kian was contently enjoying another day in paradise, completely unaware of what was about to happen. So you have some really good examples there. You could say that Baboon was slumped up against his chair. There are things that you could do with these fronted adverbials to make them apply to Baboon on the moon. Let's look at the last section. Suddenly, Kian heard the approaching clip-clopping of a horse's hooves. He looked up and saw a man wearing a tall, pointy hat and flowing cloak riding towards him. It was Erwin. Kian leapt to his feet and rushed towards the wizard. For years, so a time adverbial, Erwin had been coming to the burrow and telling them all stories of his adventures. As Kian skipped through the long grass towards the special visitor, he wondered what daring adventure Erwin would tell him about today. Erwin slowed his horse, jumped down and swept Kian into a tight embrace. Kian pushed the wizard away and laughed. Hey, I'm not a baby anymore. So we've got two really good ones there that you could use. So, let's get back to our work. Now that we've got our good vocabulary that I might use at the bottom, let's think about how we can turn some of those into sentences with having fronted adverbials at the front. So now you've got some ideas about how the baboon was doing things. How was he when he first got into the bathroom? Was he happy? Was he tired? Was he sluggish? How was he eating his breakfast? Could you use a simile? As quick as a flash, he was eating his breakfast. How would you describe what was happening? He wasn't just eating breakfast, he had a drink, he had some porridge sitting on the side too. Think about how you can, if you only had one sentence on Monday, think about how you can extend your sentences today. Just like I showed you, I went back and extended my sentences. Think about, have you given enough description to your work today? Have a really good go at this today, and then come and join me for the PM lesson for 2 more pictures. Let's persevere and have great determination to challenge ourselves this morning. Can you beat your target?